A sunny day at Sunny Meadows. Golden light, spilled lavishly by the sun, painted Sunny Meadows in warm tones. Beams pierced the slatted blinds, illuminating dust motes and Mei Wong, who moved with quiet purpose, a comforting presence weaving between beds. A sense of buoyancy lifted the day, contrasting sharply with the usual hushed atmosphere. "Good morning, Mr. Abernathy," she sang, her voice a bright thread against the digital pulse of his heart monitor. The elderly man, his face a road map of time, blinked wearily. "Morning, dear. Pill time already?" he croaked, his voice frail as aged paper. May offered a radiant smile that tugged at the corners of her eyes. "It is. Just a little boost to keep you going strong." Deftly, she prepped his medication, each movement economy and skill combined. She offered water, steadying the cup as he took small sips. "Thank you, May. You're a good soul." "My pleasure, Mr. Abernathy." A gentle pat on his hand. "Now rest. I'll be back to check on you soon." As May approached the pediatric ward, the symphony of sounds shifted to the higher registers of children's distress. A small boy, Leo, barely 6, clutched his teddy with fierce intensity. His eyes, wide with apprehension and brimming with tears, focused on the approaching syringe. "Hey, Leo," May murmured, kneeling to meet his gaze. "What's troubling you, buddy?" Leo sniffled, hiding his face in the bear's plush fur. "It's going to sting," he whimpered, referring to the shot. May produced a bright bandage showcasing a cartoon astronaut adrift in space. "This isn't just a shot, Leo. This is a rocket fuel injection. It'll make you strong enough to fly to the moon." She displayed the bandage. "And afterward, you get this super cool astronaut sticker. How about it?" Leo peeked out from behind his bear, momentarily distracted. "Seriously?" "Seriously. Cross my heart. Would I ever steer you wrong?" A playful wink sealed the deal. With practiced ease, she administered the injection. Leo winced, but the tears stayed at bay. True to her word, she applied the bandage. "Whoa!" Leo exclaimed, flexing his tiny arm. "I feel weightless." May chuckled, a bright, melodic sound. "That's the rocket fuel doing its work. Try not to float off." Later, in the break room, May found Nurse Johnson at the coffee maker. The aroma, rich and inviting, permeated the small space. "Tough morning?" Nurse Johnson inquired, noting the subtle strain around May's lips. "Just a little guy spooked by needles," May answered, filling a mug. "You know the drill." Nurse Johnson's laughter, a robust rumble, filled the room. "Tell me about it. Had a grown man nearly faint when I mentioned a flu shot once." May grinned, imagining the scene. "I'd have paid to see that. You'd have been in stitches." "So, what's on the agenda for this afternoon? Any exciting procedures?" "Nothing too wild, thank goodness. Mostly medication deliveries and watchful waiting." May paused, swirling her coffee. "Mr. Abernathy seems a bit more frail today. I think I'll keep an extra close watch on him." Nurse Johnson nodded. "Wise move. You've got a good gut feeling." She sipped her coffee. "You know, May, you've really blossomed here. You're a natural caregiver." May's cheeks flushed. "Thank you, Nurse Johnson. That means the world." She glanced down at her hands, a fleeting moment of uncertainty flickering across her face. Sometimes she still felt like that hesitant, self-conscious girl who had first entered Sunny Meadows, unsure of her footing, her voice trembling. But then she'd look at the patients, see the unwavering trust in their eyes, and the doubt would evaporate. She was a nurse. She was making a difference. That was all that truly mattered. The shrill cry of the overhead pager ripped through the quiet camaraderie. "Code Blue, Room 212. Code Blue, Room 212. May's coffee cup rattled against the counter. Her face paled as she bolted, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. Room 212. Mr. Abernathy's room. The new boss. The announcement blared from the intercom, shattering the post-lunch stillness. "Attention all staff, report to the main lobby for an important address from our new hospital administrator, Mr. Harrison Stern." Mei exhaled, gently propping up Mrs. Davison's pillows. The elderly woman was battling a stubborn case of pneumonia. You rest now, okay? I'll be right back. She squeezed Mrs. Davison's hand and hurried towards the lobby, joining the growing crowd. Stern, unexpectedly tall, stood on a makeshift platform, a rigid smile fixed on his face. His sleek suit accentuated his lean frame, and his dark hair was plastered meticulously to his scalp. Good afternoon. I'm Harrison Stern, your new administrator. I'm delighted to be here and eager to collaborate with you all to elevate this hospital to the pinnacle of efficiency and, patient-centered care in the state. A scattering of coughs punctuated the air. He cleared his throat. My vision is clear: optimized workflow, quantifiable progress, and an unwavering pursuit of excellence. I champion transparent dialogue and evidence-based decisions. Together, we will unlock this hospital's full potential. He flashed another practiced grin, met with applause that was polite, not passionate. Later, as Mei demonstrated the inhaler to Mrs. Davison, Stern materialized at the foot of the bed, his gaze scrutinizing her interaction. Deep breath now, all? Then, pissed. Mei mimed the inhalation. You feel the medicine help you breathe. Mrs. Davison, her cheeks flushed crimson, nodded faintly. Thank you, dear. You're a godsend. Stern advanced. Excuse me, nurse. He scanned Mei's badge. Wong? I found your instructions somewhat unclear. Could you reiterate them? With more precision? Mei's face warmed. I show her how to use inhaler. For breathing better. Yes, but perhaps couched in more readily understandable terms. Patient comprehension is paramount. Concision is key. He paused, his eyes sweeping the small room. And perhaps declutter these get-well cards? They strike me as excessive. Mei suppressed a sharp retort. She liked them, they make her happy. Stern's eyebrow arched. Nonetheless, we must project a professional image. Disorganization breeds inefficiency. He tapped on his tablet, his expression unreadable. Carry on. He departed, leaving Mei staring after him, a knot of apprehension tightening in her stomach. Moments later, she noticed Stern cornering Nurse Johnson by the nurse's station. Feigning attentiveness to her charting, Mei strained to overhear their exchange. Nurse Johnson, correct? Stern's voice carried easily. Yes, sir, Johnson replied, her tone carefully measured. I observed Nurse Wong attending to Mrs. Davison. Her dedication is evident. However, he lowered his voice. I struggled to grasp her explanations. Is there a communication issue? Johnson hesitated. Mei is an outstanding nurse, Mr. Stern. Dedicated, empathetic. Her accent can be a bit pronounced at times, but the patients understand her perfectly well. They truly value her care. Stern tapped his pen rhythmically against his tablet. So, a communication impediment does exist. We must ensure that all personnel can engage effectively with patients and colleagues. It's paramount for both safety and satisfaction. Perhaps some supplementary training would be beneficial? Nurse Johnson's posture stiffened. I believe Mei communicates effectively, sir. Stern offered a thin, artificial smile. Naturally. I simply wish to explore all avenues to enhance the quality of care. Thank you for your time, Nurse Johnson. He sauntered away, leaving Johnson with a look of simmering resentment. A shiver snaked down Mei's spine. Supplementary training? The phrase reverberated in her mind, magnifying her self-doubt. She glanced back at Mrs. Davison, now fumbling with the inhaler. Mei hurried to assist her, her hands now trembling slightly. This new boss, he spelled trouble. Misunderstandings. The fluorescent lights of the hospital seemed to hum a discordant tune, amplifying Mei's anxiety. Mr. Stern, his brow furrowed like a freshly plowed field, stood beside her at Mrs. Davison's bed. So, Wong, the diet? He asked, his voice crisp and efficient. Mei swallowed. Liquid only, sir. Jello, broth, no solids. She enunciated each word carefully, focusing on her diction. Liquid, got it. Stern scribbled on his clipboard. Insurer's fine, right? No, sir. Too thick. Broth is better. Clear broth. Jello juice. No pulp. Stern's pen paused midair. Did you say roof? May's cheeks burned. No broth. Broth. He sighed, a puff of air that ruffled his neatly combed hair. All right. Just making sure. Consistency is key. He moved on to the next patient, leaving May feeling deflated. Had she really said roof? She replayed the conversation in her head, searching for the misstep. Later, she found herself attempting to explain the intricacies of a new four-drip protocol to Stern. The machine beeped rhythmically, a counterpoint to her carefully chosen words. The rate needs adjusting, sir. 15 drips per minute, and the flush need. She gestured vaguely, struggling to find the right phrasing. Flush needs. Needs what, Wong? Spit it out. I haven't got all day. He tapped his pen impatiently against the clipboard. Needs to be synchronized with the. She faltered, the medical jargon suddenly feeling foreign and unwieldy on her tongue. Synchronized? Look, I understand the basics. Just tell me the flow rate and the pressure. I don't need a philosophical treatise on fluid dynamics. He adjusted his glasses, peering at her with thinly veiled impatience. Just be clear. He walked away, muttering something about wasted time and inefficient communication. May stared after him, her face hot. It wasn't a philosophical treatise. It was a vital detail that could affect the patient's health. She clenched her fists, fighting back the urge to scream. The afternoon brought another blow. Mrs. Gable, a sweet but easily confused elderly woman, flagged her down. Nurse Wong, dear, I'm ever so confused. You told me to eat all the ice cream, but Dr. Levine said just broth. Which is it? May felt her stomach plummet. I said, just broth, Mrs. Gable. No ice cream. Only liquid, clear liquid. Mrs. Gable patted her hand. Oh, you must have said ice cream, dear. I'm a bit deaf, you see. Perhaps you should speak up a bit more. May excused herself, retreating to the relative sanctuary of the nurse's station. Had she misspoken again? Or had Mrs. Gable simply misheard her? Either way, the blame, however unintentional, landed squarely on May's shoulders. The weight of the misunderstandings pressed down on her, a heavy cloak of self-doubt. She felt like she was drowning in a sea of misinterpretations, each wave threatening to pull her under. The hum of the lights seemed to mock her, a constant reminder of her perceived inadequacy. She wondered if she would ever be able to communicate effectively, or if she was destined to always be lost in translation. The unfair decision. The fluorescent lights of Sunny Meadows hummed, a discordant lullaby to May's rising anxiety. She'd been summoned to Mr. Stern's office, an unusual occurrence. Usually, performance reviews were conducted in the break room, amidst the lingering scent of stale coffee and microwaved leftovers. The formality of this felt ominous. She smoothed down the crisp fabric of her scrubs, the starched cotton offering little comfort against the prickle of unease. Mr. Stern, the hospital administrator, was a man of sharp angles and sharper pronouncements. His ambition radiated like heat from asphalt on a summer day. Taking a shallow breath, May knocked lightly on the frosted glass door. Come in. His voice, clipped and efficient, sliced through the silence. Mr. Stern sat behind his large, mahogany desk, the surface meticulously clear save for a single file folder. He gestured to the chair opposite him. May, thank you for coming. He didn't smile. May settled into the chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Is everything all right, Mr. Stern? He opened the folder, the rustle of paper loud in the small room. May, your nursing skills are commendable. Your patient care is consistently rated highly. You're diligent, punctual, and I have no complaints about your work ethic. He paused, his gaze drifting to the window overlooking the hospital parking lot. However, that word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. May's heart hammered against her ribs. We've received feedback. Concerns regarding your communication with patients. He finally met her eyes, his expression carefully neutral. Some patients have expressed difficulty understanding you, Mei. They find your accent challenging. The air seemed to thin, making it difficult to breathe. Mei's carefully constructed composure began to crumble. Challenging? She echoed, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. They feel confused, unsure. This leads to anxiety, delays in treatment. In a hospital setting, clear communication is paramount, Mei. It's a matter of patient safety. He leaned forward, his voice softening, though without warmth. I've tried to be patient, Mei. We've talked about this before. But ultimately, I have to prioritize the well-being of our patients and the smooth functioning of the hospital. Mei's mind raced, trying to grasp the implications of his words. But I've been working so hard. I've taken classes. I thought I was improving. The memory of Mrs. Davison's radiant smile after Mei had patiently explained her medication schedule flashed in her mind. The countless times she had held a trembling hand, offering comfort and reassurance that transcended language. I know you have, Mei. And I appreciate your effort. But the complaints persist. I've made the difficult decision to terminate your employment. The words hit her like a physical blow. Terminate. Employment. Fired. The humming of the fluorescent lights seemed to intensify, mocking her. But I'm a good nurse. She stammered, her voice thick with emotion. I care about my patients. I've never had any complaints about my actual nursing care. Your nursing skills are not in question, Mei. It's the communication. I'm sorry. He stood, signaling the end of the conversation. Human Resources will be in touch regarding your final paycheck and benefits. Mei stood numbly, the chair scraping against the floor as she pushed it back. She couldn't find the words to argue, to plead, to explain. The injustice of it all choked her. She walked out of Mr. Stern's office, her vision blurred with tears. The bustling corridors of Sunny Meadows, usually a source of purpose and belonging, now felt alien and hostile. The cheerful greetings of her colleagues felt like taunts. Gathering her belongings from her locker, the familiar scent of antiseptic and hand sanitizer now held a bitter tang. She changed out of her scrubs, the starched cotton now feeling like a shroud. As she walked out of the hospital doors, into the harsh glare of the afternoon sun, Mei felt a profound sense of loss. The dream she had worked so hard to achieve, the career she had poured her heart and soul into, had been snatched away because of something she couldn't change, something she was constantly told was a defect. The weight of the unfair decision settled upon her shoulders, heavy and suffocating, as she walked away from Sunny Meadows, unsure of what the future held. A new beginning. The application form felt flimsy in Mei's trembling hands. Volunteer application, the heading declared in bold, almost mocking her. It had taken her a week to even walk through the clinic doors, the shame still a bitter taste on her tongue. She'd replayed the hospital firing in her mind 1,000 times, each iteration more painful than the last. But staying home, drowning in self-pity, wasn't an option. Not anymore. She ticked the boxes: registered nurse, languages spoken, Mandarin, Cantonese. Specialties: pediatrics, geriatrics, general care. Underneath, in the "Why do you want to volunteer?" section, she wrote, "To use my skills to serve the community and make a positive difference." It sounded hollow, even to her. The receptionist, a woman with tired eyes and a warm smile, took the form without comment. "Dr. Ramirez will be with you shortly." The waiting room was small, filled with the murmur of hushed conversations and the scent of disinfectant. A poster on the wall depicted healthy eating habits, illustrated with smiling fruits and vegetables. Mei stared at it, trying to absorb its cheerfulness. Dr. Ramirez, a stout woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, called her name. Her office was cluttered with medical journals and half-empty coffee cups. She looked at Mei over her glasses. "So you're a nurse?" Mei nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, I was. I worked at St. Jude's." She couldn't bring herself to say. "Fired." Dr. Ramirez raised an eyebrow but didn't press. We can always use the help. We're chronically understaffed. Mostly dealing with minor injuries and preventative care here. Think you can handle it? Yes, Mei said, her voice stronger this time. I can. Her first patient was a young boy named Mateo, who had tripped on the sidewalk and scraped his knee. He was clutching his mother's hand, tears welling in his eyes. Mei knelt down, her smile genuine. Hey there, Mateo, she said gently. Let's take a look at that knee, okay? I bet I can make it feel all better. He flinched as she cleaned the wound with antiseptic, but Mei talked to him in a soothing voice, telling him stories about her own childhood scrapes and bruises. By the time she'd applied a colorful bandage, Mateo was giggling. All better, Mei declared, giving him a high five. Mateo ran off to play, and his mother turned to Mei, gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you so much. He was so scared. That small interaction, that simple act of caring, was a balm to Mei's wounded spirit. The following week was a blur of vaccinations, blood pressure checks, and comforting worried patients. The clinic was a hub of activity, a constant stream of people seeking help and reassurance. Mei found herself falling into a rhythm, her hands moving with practiced ease. One afternoon, she was giving vaccinations to a group of children. A little girl with bright eyes and pigtails looked at her nervously. Does it hurt? She whispered. Mei smiled. Just a little pinch, like an ant bite. But it will keep you strong and healthy. As she administered the shot, she spoke to the girl in Mandarin, telling her about the brave warriors of ancient China. The girl listened, mesmerized, and barely flinched. Afterward, the girl's mother approached Mei, her face etched with exhaustion. Thank you, she said in broken English. You are very kind. Mei felt a warmth spread through her chest. This wasn't the glamorous, high-pressure environment of St. Jude's, but it was real. It was meaningful. She was helping people, truly helping them, in a way that transcended language barriers and prejudice. Maybe, just maybe, this was more than just a way to fill her time. Maybe, this was a new beginning. Picnic panic. The damp checkered blanket offered little comfort beneath Mei. She worried a blade of grass, battling the shivers in her fingers. The combined sense of grilling meat and sunblock formed a heavy, saccharine cloud, doing nothing to settle her frayed nerves. She'd sought anonymity at the town picnic, a quiet corner to exist unnoticed, but Mrs. Higgins had already waylaid her with a cheery wave. Now, trapped, she endured the assault of Mrs. Higgins' cloying floral perfume. On a makeshift stage, a wooden pallet draped in patriotic bunting, Mayor Thompson, round and beaming, held court. His voice, amplified by the park's speakers, resonated. And that's why, my friends, I'm delighted to announce we break ground on the new community center next month. This is for you, a hub for our town to connect, to flourish, to thrive. A ripple of perfunctory applause washed over the crowd. Mei managed a smile, mimicking the clapping. Mrs. Higgins, ever the social butterfly, leaned in, her voice a sibilant whisper. Such a splendid man, the mayor. Utterly devoted. Mei merely nodded, her gaze snagging on the funnel cake stand. The mayor rambled on, launching into an anecdote about his childhood pet. Mei tuned him out, the monotonous cadence of his voice a mere drone against the anxious symphony in her head. 2 weeks. 14 days since unemployment's sting. 14 days since the public shaming. 2 weeks of whispers dogging her every step. Abruptly, the mayor's voice cracked. A dry cough, a rasping, ominous sound, ripped through the park. He clutched his throat, his face flushing crimson. A choked gasp escaped his lips, his eyes widening in stark terror. Then, with a sickening thud, he toppled. The microphone crashed to the stage, amplifying the sound of his fall. A collective inhale, sharp and sudden, ripped through the crowd, followed by a heartbeat of stunned silence. Pandemonium ensued. People surged forward, a mob of concerned faces. Call 911! A woman's voice pierced the air. A man in a gaudy Hawaiian shirt flapped a paper plate ineffectually. Another, slick with sweat, wrestled with the mayor's tie, nearly garroting him in his panic. Mei remained rooted to the spot. Her medical training screamed for action, for assessment, for intervention. But fear, doubt, the specter of past accusations, paralyzed her. What if she erred? What if she faced blame anew? The mayor lay prone, struggling for air. His complexion had turned a disturbing shade of purple, his hands scrabbling at his chest. Shallow, ragged breaths wheezed from his throat. Suffocation was imminent. "Give him some air!" someone shouted, even as the throng pressed tighter. "He's having a heart attack!" Mrs. Higgins, her face strained of color, seized May's arm. "You're a nurse, darling! Help him!" May's stomach clenched. All eyes converged on her. The burden of their expectations, their desperation, weighed upon her like a physical blow. She felt the familiar burn of unshed tears. But then, she noticed her. A little girl, standing on the periphery, clutching a half-eaten peanut butter cookie, her face creased with anxiety. Peanut butter. The penny dropped, a jolt of understanding electrifying her. Anaphylaxis. This wasn't cardiac arrest. This was a violent allergic reaction. Each wasted second propelled him closer to the abyss. Hesitation evaporated, replaced by a surge of pure adrenaline. She forced her way through the throng, her voice, amplified by its own urgency, slicing through the din. "I'm a nurse! Clear the area!" Allergic reaction. Her accent, the very thing that had cost her her position, cut through the panic, commanding attention. People paused, and then, slowly, reluctantly, began to yield. May knelt beside the mayor, her hands now only subtly trembling. A task demanded her full focus. A hero's intervention. The dampness of the checkered blanket seeped through May's jeans. She listlessly nibbled at her sandwich, the idyllic scene failing to quell the hummingbird flutter in her chest. Usually, the scent of potato salad and fresh-cut grass offered solace, but today, dread clung to her like a second skin. Across the verdant expanse, Mayor Thompson's booming chuckle, normally a sound of reassurance, caught in his throat, devolving into a gurgling, wet cough. He clutched at his neck, his complexion blossoming into a dangerous crimson. May's training took over. Abandoning her half-eaten sandwich, it landed with a soft thud. She muttered, "Something's terribly wrong," and pushed herself upright. A woman beside the mayor patted his back, offering a bottle of water. He waved her off, his breathing becoming increasingly ragged. "He's struggling," May breathed, a mere whisper that nonetheless snagged the attention of a nearby group. She approached him with caution. "Mr. Mayor, are you all right?" His eyes, wide and frantic, pleaded for help. He attempted to speak, but only a strangled noise emerged. His lips puffed, and a furious rash bloomed across his skin. The diagnosis hit her like a jolt: anaphylaxis. "He needs epinephrine, immediately," she declared, her voice gaining command. "He's experiencing a severe allergic reaction." The water-offering woman scoffed. "Allergic reaction? He probably just choked." Disregarding the woman, May plunged her hand into her cavernous tote. Almost left behind in her premonition of picnic doom, it now felt like a lifeline. Her fingers wrapped around the smooth, familiar cylinder. A wave of relief washed over her. The EpiPen. Years spent in the ER, confronting the unpredictable, had made it a constant companion. But as she withdrew it, a man materialized, blocking her path. "Hold your horses," he growled, his brow a deep furrow. Sunburned and suspicious, he stood his ground. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" "I'm a nurse," May stated, striving for calm against the rising tide of anxiety. "He's going into anaphylactic shock. He needs this." "A nurse, huh?" He scrutinized her face, then the EpiPen, his eyes narrowed in judgment. "You sure you know what you're doing? Your words sound kinda funny." His gaze lingered, a prejudice hanging unspoken in the air. May's stomach tightened. Her accent. Her background. The very bias that had cost her her livelihood. Doubt, an insidious serpent, coiled in her mind. What if she faltered? Worsened the situation? Dr. Harrison's patronizing grin flashed before her eyes. Yet, the mayor's desperate, wheezing gasp sliced through her insecurity. His face was turning a ghastly blue. There was no room for hesitation. "Move!" she commanded, the steel in her own voice surprising her. "He can't breathe." Ignoring his lingering skepticism, she ripped open the EpiPen packaging, her hands trembling only slightly. She jammed the injector firmly against the mayor's thigh, holding it steady until the distinctive click confirmed the dose. The man recoiled, but Mei remained focused, her entire world narrowed to the mayor and the fragile spark of hope she saw reflected in his terrified gaze. Saving the mayor. The EpiPen, cold steel against her sweaty palm, felt impossibly heavy. Doubts, like biting insects, swarmed her mind. Mess this up, and what then? Make things worse? Thompson's face, an alarming patchwork of purple and gray, offered scant reassurance. His chest rose and fell shallowly. Time was draining away. Focus, Mei, focus! Procedure was rote, ingrained from countless drills, yet this was Thompson. And God, the audience. With a forceful inhale, she tore at the packaging. Bits of plastic skittered across the slick floor. No room for apologies for perfection. Locating the injection site, her fingers registered the clammy give of his skin. A fresh surge of adrenaline steadied her hand. "Mr. Mayor," she announced, her voice surprisingly firm. "This will sting." Without pause, she slammed the EpiPen home. The sharp report echoed in the sudden hush. 10 seconds. She counted them out internally, a mantra urging the drug to take hold. A crimson pinprick bloomed as she withdrew the device. A hastily offered tissue blotted the spot. The ensuing silence pressed down like a physical weight. Every eye remained glued to the mayor. Then, a wet rattle in his throat. Another. A desperate gasp followed. His body jerked as he fought for air. A wave of relief, palpable as a summer breeze, circulated through the room. Mei kept her gaze fixed on Thompson. The mottled color was fading, replaced by a ghostly white. Breathing remained ragged but present. A hard-won battle. "He's not stable yet," she stated, her voice raspy. "Someone reconfirm the 911 call, anaphylaxis. And get him oxygen, stat!" Within minutes, sirens sliced through the tense quiet. Paramedics, a whirlwind of practiced efficiency, descended on the scene. Monitors beeped, oxygen hissed. Mei retreated, an odd sense of detachment washing over her as she answered their rapid-fire questions, the timeline, the dosage, the reactions. "You did good, nurse," one of them said, lines of fatigue etched around his eyes. "He owes you his life." The simple declaration hung in the air, a potent counterpoint to the dismissals of weeks past. The ones that had questioned her competence, her knowledge, her value. The paramedics whisked Thompson away on a gurney, and a sudden tide of nausea threatened to overwhelm Mei. The adrenaline ebb left her trembling, empty. She found a chair and buried her face in her hands, seeking refuge. Whispers erupted, a low susurrus that vibrated through the room. "The nurse, she actually saved him, the Asian nurse, wasn't she just let go from the clinic?" Someone, anonymous in the crowd, gave her shoulder a clumsy pat. "That was incredible, Mei. Truly." By the time she emerged into the evening air, the story had taken on a life of its own. Strangers stopped her, their faces alight with gratitude and wonder. "We heard. You're a lifesaver. Thank you for what you did for the mayor." Her phone vibrated incessantly, texts and calls flooding her inbox. News outlets were already circling, ravenous for details. The Bayview Beacon's website blazed with a grainy image of her beneath the headline, "Clinic Cast-Off Revives Mayor." A strange cocktail of emotions churned within her, pride tempered by exhaustion, and a gnawing premonition. The spotlight blazed anew, illuminating her for reasons unforeseen. She had pulled a life back from the brink. But what would such notoriety bring? Real change? Or would she remain defined by the perceived otherness of her appearance, regardless of her deeds? Only time would reveal the answer. A second chance. The morning sun sliced through the blinds of Mr. Stern's meticulously organized office, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. He usually welcomed the light, but today it felt accusatory, highlighting the newspaper spread across his mahogany desk. The headline screamed, "Sunny Meadows nurse saves mayor from burning building." Below, a photo of a soot-streaked Mei Wong, her eyes shining with a fierce determination he'd never witnessed, cradled a small, whimpering dog. He'd seen the reports, of course. The fire, the mayor's near-death experience. But he hadn't connected it to her. Not really. Now, staring at the ink-stained image, a cold fist clenched around his gut. He'd dismissed her. Told her she wasn't a good fit. Fired her. And now she was a hero. He skimmed the article, his face growing paler with each paragraph. Witnesses described Mei's bravery, her calmness amidst the chaos, her unwavering focus on rescuing the mayor. He remembered his complaints. The patients hadn't understood her instructions, the families had voiced concerns. Were those concerns valid, or were they simply a reflection of his own impatience, his own biases? He tossed the paper onto the desk, the sound echoing in the silent room. He had to do something. But what? He couldn't simply pretend it hadn't happened. Meanwhile, in a sterile hospital room, Mayor Thompson, hooked up to monitors and still smelling faintly of smoke, was struggling to sit up. His head throbbed, his chest ached, but his mind was clear. "I need to see her," he rasped to his wife, Martha, who was dabbing his forehead with a cool cloth. "See who, dear? You need to rest." "The nurse. The one who saved me. Mei Wong. Find her, Martha. I need to thank her." Martha, after a frantic search, finally connected with the hospital administrator, who, after much hemming and hawing, confessed that Mei Wong no longer worked at Sunny Meadows. She was let go," he stammered. Martha's eyebrows shot up. "Let go? After saving the mayor's life? What kind of madness is this?" The administrator, sweating profusely, mumbled something about communication issues and patient complaints. Martha relayed the information to her husband, who erupted in a fit of coughing, the monitors beside his bed beeping erratically. "Communication issues?" She risked her life. "This is an outrage. I want a press conference. Now." The next day, the city held its breath. From his hospital bed, Mayor Thompson, his voice still weak but filled with righteous anger, addressed the cameras. He recounted the events of the fire, emphasizing Mei Wong's courage and selflessness. Then, he dropped the bombshell. "I have just learned," he said, his voice trembling, "that this remarkable young woman was unjustly terminated from her position at Sunny Meadows." Terminated? For what? For having a slight accent? This is unacceptable. I demand that Ms. Wong be immediately reinstated with a full apology. This city owes her a debt of gratitude. The news spread like wildfire. Talk radio buzzed with outrage, social media exploded with hashtags like #JusticeForMei and #ReinstateMei. Mr. Stern watched it all unfold on his office television, the knot in his stomach tightening with each passing moment. 2 days later, Mei, feeling a mixture of apprehension and disbelief, stood before the entrance to Sunny Meadows. She'd received a call from the hospital board, a sheepish apology, and an offer to return to her position. The support from the public had been overwhelming, but a part of her still doubted herself. Was she really good enough? As she walked through the doors, a wave of applause erupted. Nurses, doctors, even some patients lined the hallway, cheering and holding signs of support. Mr. Stern, looking pale and contrite, stepped forward. "Ms. Wong," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. "Mei, I owe you an apology. I made a mistake. I judged you unfairly. Your bravery speaks for itself, and the mayor, well, he made his feelings pretty clear. We are honored to have you back at Sunny Meadows." He extended his hand. Mei hesitated for a moment, then took it. "Thank you, Mr. Stern," she said, a small smile gracing her lips. Maybe, just maybe, she was getting a second chance.